This is Masechet Brachot, daf Nun Daled Amud Aleph, the 9th Perek of Masechet Brachot, and we're going to learn the Mishna that begins the Perek. Haroa makom shenasu bo nisim l'Yisrael. If a person sees a place where a miracle happened to the Jewish people in the past, Omer baruch she'asa nisim lavoseinu b'makom hazeh. Make a bracha she'asa nisim lavoseinu, that God made miracles for our forefathers b'makom hazeh, in this place. Makom shenekra mimena v'kochavim. If you come to a place where there used to be idol worship and the idols were uprooted, Omer baruch she'akar ako me'atzenu. Make a bracha, blessed is God who uprooted idolatry from our land. Ala zikin, ala zoos, v'ala ra'amim, v'ala ruchos, v'ala barakim. If a person sees zikin, which is a phrase which the Gemara will interpret, or earthquakes, or thunder, or winds, or lightning, Omer baruch shekocho gvuraso malei olam. Make a bracha, blessed is God whose power and strength fills our world. Al harim, on seeing mountains, al gvaos, hills, al yamim, oceans, al naharos, rivers, al midbaros, or deserts. Omer baruch osa ma'aseh bereshis. Make a bracha, blessed is God who has created the world in Bereshit. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, haroa es hayam hagadol. Omer baruch she'asa es hayam hagadol. If a person sees the great ocean, then there's a particular bracha for that ocean on the Yam Hagadol. B'zman shero'eu leprakim. If it's only seen once in a while. If it's every day, there's no particular bracha. But if it's once in a while, once in at least 30 days, then there's this particular bracha. Al hageshamim, for rain, which is a blessing for the crops. V'al besuros tovos, or for good news. Omer baruch hatov ha'meitiv. The bracha is that God gives goodness to the world. V'al besurot ra'ot, for bad news. Omer baruch dayan ha'emet. The bracha is that God is the true judge, acknowledging that there's divine justice and that the cause for the events of the world are from God. Bana bayit chadash. If a person built a new home, kana kelim chadashim, or bought some new items that are special. Omer baruch shechiyanu v'kiyamanu v'kiyanu lazman hazeh. The bracha is that God has given us life to come to this joyous moment. Mevarach al hara me'ein al hatova. The bracha for good news is even if the bracha for bad news is said dayan ha'emes, even if there may be a silver lining to the events. V'al hatova me'ein al ra'a. And the bracha for good news is said even if there might be some negative aspects to it. V'atzoek l'sha'avar, if a person cries out to God for something which is in the past, harezo tfilat shav. This is a wasted tefillah, an inappropriate tefillah. For example, ha'ita ishto mi'uberet, if a person's wife is pregnant, v'omer, and a person says yiratzon as a prayer, may it be God's will, shateilit ishti zachar, that she should have a male child. Harezo tfilat shav. This is an inappropriate tefillah because a person cannot pray for something which has already been determined and completed, and the gender of the child has already been formed, and therefore it's inappropriate to pray for that to happen, even though he doesn't know what the gender is yet. If a person's traveling on the road, v'shama kol tzavcha be'ir, and as he's approaching the city, he hears cries of pain, of suffering. V'yomer, and he says, yiratzon tefillah to God, shalotei b'doch beiti, that this should not be my home. Harezo tefillat shav. This is a wasted tefillah because it's occurred already. Hanichnas akrach. If a person comes to a new city, mitpal shtayim, he makes two brachot. Achad b'chnisato v'achad b'yitziato. One as he comes in, that I should come into the city with success and in peace, and one when he leaves, that I should leave in peace. Ben Azai Omer Arba. Ben Azai says to make four brachot. B'chnisato shtayim. Shtayim b'chnisato v'shtayim b'yitziato. Two when he comes in and two when he comes out. Notein hoda al sha'avar v'tzoek ala asid. Always thanking God for the past and crying or asking for help for the future. A person, as he's coming in, he prays to God to come in success. Once he's come in to the city, he thanks God for what has occurred. When he leaves, he asks God to let him leave in peace and success. And when he's left, he thanks God for that. Each time, a plea and an expression of appreciation. Chayav adam levarech ala ra kishem shemavarech ala tova. We have to bless God for the bad in the similar way that we bless God for the good. Shenamar, the source is the following: V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha, etc. We should love God b'chol levavecha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol miyodecha. And the Midrash interprets b'chol levavecha. What does it mean with all your hearts? B'shnei yitzarecha, with your two desires, b'yetzer tov, b'yetzer hara, with the desire for good should be channeled to God, and the desire for more negative or physical should be channeled to good for God. We should love God with our whole life. Even if we lose our life for the observance of the Torah, we should still love Him at that time. With all of your possessions, with all your money. You're prepared to follow the mitzvot, even if it means losing your money. Davar acher, another interpretation, b'chol miyodecha means b'chol mida v'mida shehu modeh lecha, with every measure and measure that God measures for us. Havi modelo, be thankful to Him. Meaning, this last interpretation is the support for the idea to be thankful to God for good and for bad, with whatever the measure is that God gives us. Lo yakel adam es rosho k'neged shara mizrach. A person shouldn't be lightheaded when he's by the gate, which is on the eastern side of the Har Bayit, shu mechuvan k'neged beis kodesh HaKadoshim, because it corresponds to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's right behind the Kodesh HaKadoshim. V'lo yikanas Har Bayit, a person shouldn't ascend Har Bayit b'makalo, with his staff, min alo, with his shoes on, b'pundato, with his money belt, u'ba'avak shal raglav, or with dirty feet. A person should come in clean feet, wash his feet, barefoot, and without the mundane items that a person usually carries in the market. And a person cannot make the Har Bayit into a shortcut. You can't cut across Har Bayit to get to the other side. If you're approaching Har Bayit and ascending Har Bayit, it should only be to do something there on the Har Bayit. And certainly, even more so, a person shouldn't spit on the Har Bayit. Kol chotmei brachot shel mikdash hayu omrim ad ha'olam. They used to make all the brachot in the mikdash, Baruch Hashem, ad ha'olam, until the world. Mishakilkul HaTzadukim, once the Tzadukim came and spread negative ideologies that they said, Amru ein olam ela echad. They said there's only one world, there's no olam haba. Hitkinu, the Chachamim established, you omrim min ha'olam v'ad ha'olam. We should add to that text that God is our God, min ha'olam, from this world, v'ad ha'olam, until the future world, to be explicit that there's a world to come. V'hitkinu, and they established, she'yeh adam shoel ashlam chaveru b'shem. A person who greets his friend should use God's name in the greeting. Shenamar, like we see in the pasuk, Hinei Boaz, that Boaz came from Beit-Lechem. Vayomer al Kodesh Shemini, said to the Kodesh Shirim, Hashem Yimachem, God is with you, with saying the name of God. Vayomer lo, and they responded, Yivarech Hashem, God should bless. Vayomer, and the pasuk says, Hashem Imecha Gibor Chayil. God is with you, strong warrior. Here also, Hashem Imcha is the greeting. V'omer, and this is based on the pasuk, Al tavos ki zikena imecha. Don't disregard the teaching of your mother who's older. In other words, the actions of the elders should be emulated and not disregarded. So therefore, Boaz, for example, an elder Jewish person, his example should be followed. And we should use God's name in greeting each other to bring God into our lives and into our language. The Omer, and the pasuk says, "Eit la'asot la'Hashem heferu totecha," that there's a time to act for God. Rabbi Natan Omer, Rabbi Natan interprets it to reverse the words. Heferu totecha, disregard the Torah or contradict the Torah, mishum, because eit la'asot la'Hashem, there's a time to act for God. Sometimes there's a time to act for God and to disregard a particular halacha. Here, we're supposed to greet our friends with God's name, even though we're saying God's name in vain, because it's more important to take the moment to do what God needs, which is to bring God awareness into our conversations and into our lives.